Hello and welcome to today's tutorial. Today we are learning about positioning. I am hoping and I am praying that you did yesterday's assignment whereby you were required to make the model of a piece of furniture which you've pulled from Pinterest. So let's get to today's tutorial. Today's tutorial is about positioning, axis, snapping, origins, and pivot. Now those words may sound like a lot, but I'm going to explain to you what each and every one of them mean. Okay, so let's first do a quick recap. Just open general. To scale upwards, scale Z. You remember that? To rotate along X, to delete. Okay. I'm assuming you did your homework. You're a good person, you did your homework. If you're a bad person, practice is what makes you a better animator and not you being able to do my tutorial. I cannot stress that enough. Practice twice as hard as you watch tutorials. So if you're watching one tutorial for, say, like 10 minutes, please go ahead and practice for 20 minutes. If you're watching a tutorial for 3 minutes, please go ahead and practice for 6 minutes. Okay, now on to today's topic. We're going to be covering these factors over here. You see these things that I told you I will discuss in future tutorials? Those are what we are discussing today. And so you can be able to see what I am doing. Let me just turn on some essentials. This I just have because I do tutorials. You don't necessarily need it. And when you open your Blender, you won't find it because it's an add-on I've put so that I can be able to do good tutorials. So now you can see my mouse. Another thing I'm going to enable is my gizmos. Gizmos are, let me go ahead and add a cube so that I can explain what that is. Surely there's another time for my computer to be moving like that. So you see that GY, now it has been positioned. So once you go right at the top here, you will see something that says gizmos, and once you open it, there are a lot of things that are checked out. So the navigate, you can see what disappears when I press the navigate. Yes, those things. The active tools, this is the orange outline. This orange outline is what is called the showcase of the active tools, that is. The active object, this is like if you have duplicate objects, say Shift D. Okay, so if you have the active object on, it means that it is just showcasing like this. It's highlighting the orange where you see it's the active object. For the move, now you have this gizmo where it's like move to the Y, move to the Z with the blue, move to the X with the red. Move to the X with the red. Next. We have the rotate now. We have this big circle where it's like rotate to the, once you rotate to the Z, it moves to the side. Say rotate Z. Now you see. So it showcases where the direction through which you would go. If you're moving to the X, say rotate to the X. So this gizmo for rotation shows you that. Next we have scaling. Scaling is that gizmo now right here. So it showcases like where you're moving at what time, and I showed you all these when I was explaining the transformation. So in the empty, an empty is like an object that does a function, but at the same time, it cannot be functionally visible to the camera, that I will introduce obviously in the future. Force field is all about physics introduced at the future. So the light, say this is our current light. Just select it so that we can see. Turn off those rotation, transformation, and scaling gizmos so that we can see what happens to the light. We need to be able to see the light. So if I eradicate these two, it means that if I have selected this object, there are some properties of the light that will go missing. Camera, again. So those are the gizmos, literally just highlighting objects that showcase what is going on in the viewport. So I'm just going to delete this big cube. Press circle select. Okay, I have these 3 cubes. To begin our topic today, we are going to be covering what? Local axis and global axis. That is this part here. So let's start with the global axis. The global axis is like the explanation of how everything happens on the viewport. So say that I have selected this object. The Z is all relative to the one that is on the viewport. So you see how this is the Y-axis on the viewport. So for each object, let me just turn on the gizmo for that. For each object, its Y-axis is the same. It's this line. So for the object, it's that line. For this object, it's that line. For this object, it's that line. And when I rotate this object, say to look like this, its Y is still that line. That is what I mean by global orientation. For an example of that, I will give an example to explain all of them. So say for local, now you see the y has changed because I've rotated this object. And if I rotate it again, its y has changed. If I rotate it again, its y has changed. So now the direction is not based on the viewport, but on the object itself. That is what you call the local axis. Are we together? So next we have the normal. Normals are, let me just enable the normals. Where was that? Normals are like direction. I don't know how to explain that at this point of the tutorial, so I will just skip that and we will just focus on the global and local because those are what we are going to use. So, cursor, you remember the cursor? I showed you how to use the cursor. See, the cursor is here. So now, the YZ of these has changed. If I put the cursor here, to rotate this according to the cursor, or to move it will be based on something different. And that I will also explain. Today I just want us to focus on this, to the global and the local axis. So I'll go ahead and select everything using A, delete everything using XD, and then let me just make a simple living room by adding like a plane, scaling it, this is just for explanation purposes. Please let us focus on the topic at hand. This I will teach, obviously. Forgot to reset that back to the global. Very unfortunate. So now when I do, let's get down to business to defeat the Hans. So I have made like a sample living room setup. Like it's not precise because it's obviously just for explanation purposes. I will just add a chair from like my assets. Assets are like, you see the way we created the table last time. So assets are 3D objects that have been created by other artists or by Blender, the company, that enable us to just skip that process where it's like, I don't need to make a wooden chair. So I've just added a chair. So yeah, that's our scene. Don't worry about finding the assets or going God knows where. You can model a chair, but this is just for explanation purposes. I don't want you to do this along. I just want you to understand. So the room is the global axis, whereby it's like if this is the front where the TV is supposed to be, that is the front of the chair. Say I rotate the chair by, my gosh, I forgot to click the chair. Say I rotate the chair RZ. So you see how the global axis represents the viewport, which is the room. Like if I rotate the chair on the Z axis, it rotates on the Z of the room, because globally it means that everything that is on this set is aligned to this viewport. So the Z of the viewport is the Z of the room, is the Z of the chair, is the Z of every other thing that I add on the viewport. Now, once we change to the local axis, you can see that now the Y of the chair, which was set when I added the chair, has changed. So if I want to move it along the Y axis, it has a different Y as compared to the viewport, because it's based on when I placed the chair, where were these gizmos. Like if I rotate it on the Z axis, back to I placed it when it was like this. See, now the Y has changed direction because I've changed the direction of the chair. So if I wanted to move it, the X of the viewport is this way, but the X of my chair, because it's based on those coordinates of when I added the chair, is now vertically like this. So if I want to move it on the X-axis, GX. So now it means, based on the position of the chair, what is my north, what is my west, what is my south? That is how the concept works. So that is the local and global axis. I hope you've understood that. And I hope that explanation has made sense, because it has made sense to me. So to be able to understand that better, I will task you with one factor. I need you to add two cubes, which is Shift plus A cube. You can duplicate it or add another one. So change this to the global axis. And then I want you to move it along the X. So move along the X with the GX. Then we'll rotate this in no particular direction. And then switch that to the local axis and then move it along the X. Now you see the X has changed because we have rotated the object. Hope that is understood. Next section, we're going to look at snapping Snapping is this thing. It has been represented by this magnet over here. So you turn on snapping, you turn off snapping. So let's just delete everything, put our cursor to the middle, and figure out what is snapping. So snapping works in a certain way where it's like, say we have a table that we want to create its legs. Scale Z, then just scale that. So this is the top of our table, yes? And we have switched to the y-axis. We need to add a foot right over there where I have placed my cursor. Then just pan and see it's at the corner. So if we add a cube right there, scale to the z-axis, move it, da 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 da. So you can see that this my corner is not like exactly at the corner, and now I am struggling to find which is the right corner. Or should I move it right? Or G to the X so I can get that part right, G to the Y so that I can get that part right. To avoid that struggle, G to the Z so that I can get it exactly to the bottom. We turn on this magnet. Now what this magnet does is like, if this was misaligned, see, and I want it to snap to that corner. A corner is a vertex. Is the edge. To the vertex, yeah. I want it to snap to the vertex. So once I turn on snapping to the vertex, anytime I try to move this, you'll see this tiny orange part show up to show me that it has magnetically clipped to the corner of that table. And now once I rotate, it's like perfectly aligned without having to struggle, without having to go through a lot of stuff. So say I want to duplicate and move it to this corner. All I have to do is press Shift D and boom, we have it on another corner. This corner. So it is, you see how it's locating to any corner that the closest corner. Like you have to move it to the closest, so close to the corner that you want, and boom, automatically we have my nigger snapped there to the, we have the leg snapped to the corner. Again, Shift D, just roughly next to the corner, roughly next to the corner. Can you like, so you will feel the resistance like once you're going off or a bit farther from the direction it wants to put you, because now you see here you need to rotate your viewport so that you can be able to see whether it is. Can you snap? What am I doing wrong? Let me just scale down my viewport and pan to see what I am doing wrong. So see, it aligns with the corner. It snaps with the corner. Okay, that is the vertex. So if you want your object to snap to a corner, this is not perfectly aligned. I am wondering what is wrong with it. The snapping is on, and I'll just, I don't know what's wrong with that one, but that is how snapping to vertexes work. Snapping to faces means that anytime it is close to a face, like say here, you can see here it is on the bottom face, so it is snapping to all parts of the faces. If I put it on top or to like a corner, it moves to like, if I try to put it to a corner, it resists and moves away because that is not a face. It's like that is, it's telling you that is not a face, please, that is not a face, but here we have a face, here we have a side face. So yeah, this will be necessary once you're doing like, say, the mushroom tutorial. If you're doing this course, I highly recommend that you find what is it called? A core wife course. So like you see, I am uploading barely like twice a week. I need you to find a core wife course whereby you will be able to follow along. I will create a video for all the courses you can do on Blender that are here online. And then you can pick one and do along with this one where I am explaining everything in depth. Hope that is understood. So that is what snapping to the face does. Next, we have snapping to an edge. An edge is practically this line, this line, this line. So let's again experiment with that. So you see, when we have an X, an edge, it's like I can slide directly. Like I can slide directly. If I duplicate that, I can slide directly on this line and slide, and I'll find myself in the corner, right at the perfect spot. So it makes it easier when you're creating like meshes to be able to find like the home you're looking for your object. So you see how it was so easy to create that table without having to guess around where is the corner. That is the purpose of snapping. That is the purpose of snapping to that edge center. So say we have this edge, the middle of this edge sits around here. So if I am moving this, can it move? If I am moving it along the y-axis and I have turned on snapping to the edge center, it means that it is easily. Now you can see the triangle that shows up when I try to move it. Like there's a triangle that showed up around here. That is what I am trying to describe. So next part, we have perpendicular edge, that is the corner of an edge. What else? And this can be snapped to the closest edge face vertex, center of a vertex edge face, median of an vertex edge face, the active edge that is closest, that is based on like another object or something if you've done a multiple selection. But what I advise is that you use the closest selection to snap your objects or whatever it is you're snapping. So you can snap movement, rotation, scale. Like if you don't want the scale to snap, I've shown you for movement, let me show you for rotation. It's the same thing. Whether I want to rotate and it stops at a corner, I'll use magnetic rotation. So let us go over scale, because scale I feel like is fun. Rotation is just rotation. There's nothing I've done with it so far, so I'm not willing to do the exercise. Like say I have this and I am snapping via the corner, the vertex. So the closest vertex is, we have this one. No, we have that one. So if I'm trying to scale along the z-axis, what did I press? Did I press scale on? Yes. So I'm trying to scale this foot to be the same height as this table. So scale Z, you'll hear the resistance of why it is stopping you at that point, because it's an indication that it has snapped to the vertex. So that is how scaling works. Hope that has been understood. Let us delete everything as usual and start a new scale. We have discussed snapping. Next, we are going to cover origins. Origins are like, how do I put it? So we have a cube. Let me just make sure the gizmos are off, because I finished the demonstration. They were just to showcase the snapping and the pivoting. No, the snapping and the axis, the globe and nini. So where do I show off my normal? Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Oh my gosh, I lost whatever I was looking for. But we move on regardless. This is what is called an origin. An origin is like, let me move this cursor to God knows where. Like the anchor point of an object. Say, I am rotating this object. Rotate. You see how it's doing it from the center? That is known as the origin. So, imagine like if this was a bottle cap or a bottle. This middle part where it spins from, like I said, rotating, is the origin. Hiya. Objects. You can see here there's a set origin. Set origin to 3D cursor. So if I move my cursor here, then I come up here and select set origin to 3D cursor. Now the origin is here. So if I rotate now, are you seeing what it is doing? Are you seeing? From that point now becomes the origin. If I move my cursor here and I select object and set origin to 3D cursor, you see? Now all the things I want to do will happen from that point. If it is grabbing, now it moves from this specific point. If I go back up here and set origin to the center of the mass, because it's a uniform object, it doesn't make much of a difference. But as you can see, it has gone back to the original center. Sometimes you'll have objects that are like heavier, or like say the body of a human, whereby it's like proportional and stuff. So let's just make the body of a human, because why not? Let's use that monkey head. No, that is not the monkey head. Let us use something disproportional like a cone. Okay, yeah. Let us use a cone. Just isolate it so that we can see it clearly. And pan. So as you can see currently, we have it at the center. So if I rotate, it's like rotating from the center. If I move cursor to here and object, set origin to 3D cursor. Now if I rotate, it's rotating from that point. If I go back to, and the shortcut for this is S. Was it S? If I send it to center of mass, you see it has become lower because that is the center of mass of a cone. Like based on the physics. Like we all learned about physics and balance. The center of the mass is what gives an object balance. So you see how that is different from like set the origin to center of the volume where it's like higher, a bit higher than that. If I set origin to what? To geometry, now it has gone to the bottom whereby it's the highest point of balance. So based on different things, the position of the origin is now what, see now as I rotate. But the most useful part of this is like you can set the origin to the cursor, and that is what I use the most, so that is what I am going to teach for now. To do a long exercise, go ahead, add a cone, change the origin to different parts, rotate, scale, see what that does differently, and yeah, maybe then now you've understood the origin. But that is very important. That is really pivotal. And I mean this is really pivotal for when you're animating, because like say you're animating a hand. You're animating a hand. Let us just assume this is our hand. Bring it to the center for better view. If I rotate this cube, it's rotating from the center. But if I want this cube to move like a hand, I'll press the cursor, put the cursor here, and object, set origin to 3D cursor. Then now when I rotate, see how that functions better like a hand? We're going to need that setting of origin once we're animating and moving objects in certain directions. Say hands, legs, for the purpose of rigging. So any movement like walking, you see how that has changed the direction of our leg, hand, whatever. But you see how that has changed the direction of our leg. That is why the origin is important. Like where you put the origin is important. Leave alone legs. If I was animating a door, so Shift plus a cube for a door, scale the y-axis. We have a door. We grab it and put it here. So if we have a door and we want to rotate it along the z-axis, you see how that is not a door. But if I put the origin where the hinges are usually like here, set the origin to the 3D cursor, then now I am rotating in the z-axis. You see how that becomes a door? You see how important the setting of origin is? I hope you've understood. I hope you've marked the importance. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of the origin. And I hope you've heard me clear and right. So, that was the origin, basically. The origin is what measures the direction. It's what measures how your objects move. It's what dictates, like, the flow and longevity of your animation, whereby it becomes easier once you learn that my hand is pivoting from this point. So, easy animation. We're going to practice that with a door. So go ahead, add your cube. I taught you how to add objects. So look at the door that is at your house. I'm pretty sure that is the easiest thing to animate. So Shift plus A, cube, scale along the y-axis, scale along the z-axis. For like the door is usually rectangular. Shift plus A, add a door handle or something. Go ahead and model the exact replica of your door. G and Y, G and X. Scale that to be small. Why can't this be small enough? Okay, that looks valid. 3x. So that's there we have like a rough version of a door, but I expect you to select all these objects so that it can become one door. Control J, and now we have it as one object. So if I rotate, it has picked the origin of the last object. But I need it to have the origin at here where the hinges are usually. So I'll put my cursor there, add an object, origin to 3D cursor, and now once I rotate it, no. Once I rotate it along the z-axis, because that is how doors open, we have like an opening door, an opening door. So say like I have an exact replica of another door right over here, and I need this door to open from, let me just a moment so that I don't have to repeat. I did not want to model the door again. So now if I select all and rotate along the z-axis, see, that is not how an entrance, I need you to make like a gate. That is not how a gate opens. See there? That is not how a gate opens, but I need these two to open like a gate. So this has its, I need these two to open like a door. And that is not working. So like a gate, and that is not how it's working, because rotate along the z-axis, this one is not opening the way it's supposed to. So to change its origin, I'll put the cursor right at the end here. Object, set origin to 3D cursor. And then now when I select all of them and rotate along the Z, still not working. So I will select all of them and switch to the global axis. Then when I rotate along the Z, now all of them are coming from the middle. Why is that? If I select this one and rotate it along the Z axis, our door opens. If I select this one and rotate it along the Z axis, our door opens. So I need you to make your gate and leave it open. That is all that you're tasked to do today. Make your gate and leave it open. There we go. Open the gate, close the gate. Yeah, that is all I expect for you from today. So that is factors about the origin. I feel like I have covered everything. I don't want to add more to that. I just want you to understand that concept. And I'm going to head right into editing so that I can make this clear tutorial so that I can come out, I think, tomorrow. But to recap on what we have learned today, we have learned about global and local axis, whereby global is from the view from the viewport, local is the view from the object. We have learned about snapping, and now finally we have learned about the origin. So for assignments for the day, include, I need you to add two cubes. Once you've added two cubes, I need you to rotate this one slightly off, so it's different from that. So then you're going to move this one on its global x-axis and this one on its local x-axis. After that, I need you to create the table using the snapping menu. Go ahead and use the snapping menu and recreate the table that we just made today. Go a step further and make a chair. I don't know why furniture seems to be the easiest to go to teach this course, but recreate the table that we made today. And then for our last exercise, I need you to make a gate whereby it opens like a normal gate. And then you're going to leave your gate open. That is all for today. Thank you and see you in the next tutorial. Have a lovely time practicing. And remember, like I've emphasized, there's an importance to learning this origin. So please make sure you take it as seriously as, yeah. Next, we're going to cover edit mode, where it's by, once we enter edit mode, where it's like if we have an object and we press tab, we will get into learning about all these tools. So yeah, have a lovely day, practice your work, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.